But the biggest news, I think, around here, and this is, I'm curious how they're going to handle it, is the 5 is having a problem because Elon is out. The 5 on Musk's future at Doge. So if you haven't been following along, Elon Musk at his oh my God, the company's taking a shit, all hands on dork earnings or lack thereof. Can you have an earnings phone call, like an earnings call if you're not earning anything? I guess if you're talking about the lack thereof, sure. Okay. Anyways, so on his earnings call, he's like, yeah, I'm only going to stay. Starting in May, I'm only going to be here like 2 days a week. And then the rest of the time, I'm going to be at Tesla fucking things up over there. I don't think it's going to help. I think the damage has been done to the brand, and there's no turning it around. Like, he's just going to basically, like, keep making the same fucking bad news he's making for the brand, whether he's there or not. And the idea that he's not there guiding these, like, wandering hacker dipshits he brought in doesn't make anybody feel any better, right? I don't know what's better, scumbag supervision or scumbags without supervision. Scumbag on scumbag supervision, or like, who can say? So let's give it a shot. By the way, hit that like. It's Houseparks Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. In the name of Luke, we go.
They tangoed, they torched, and Tampon Tim even rooted for the stock to crash. The left did everything they could to do.
Hey, look! Greg Gutfeld, yo me money. They better be paying through the nose for this shit. I'm not going to see any money from this for like months, apparently. But when it comes, by God, it should be a stack. Otherwise, I'm suing. Like, the value of my footage speaks for itself, son of a bitch.
Destroy Tesla as a way to stick it to Elon and Doge. But now they won't have old Elon to kick around anymore. Musk says he's ready to ride off into the sunset after Doge claims it saved American taxpayers $160 billion and counting.
No, not and counting down? No. He said 150. You don't get to add 10 more, asshole.
Starting probably in next month, May, my time allocation to Doge will drop significantly. I'll have to continue doing it for, I think, probably the remainder of the president's term, just to make sure that the waste and fraud that we stop does not come roaring back.
Okay, first of all, you haven't stopped any waste and fraud. You just don't like some of the shit, and you've killed some programs just like any incoming administration does, and it's fucking pathetic. Secondly, comes roaring back. Why? Who are you stopping? Trump? Yeah, I got news for you. If you're going to try and stop him, you can't stop his waste and fraud without cutting your own paycheck. So,
allocating far more of my time to Tesla, and now that the major work of establishing the Department of Government Efficiency is done.
Okay, first of all, the Department of Government Efficiency is not a thing. They just took another department, another agency actually, and just changed the name on it colloquially in an executive order. So he didn't create the structure by which it exists at all. And secondly, if it's already up and running, I would argue what he's really saying here is that they stole everything they're going to be able to steal. Now it's time to make your escape.
But whose dealerships will the left graffiti now that boogeyman Musk is going away? And what?
He's not going away. He's still going to be the same prick he was before.
Electric cars will Walt staffers vandalize and get away with it? And who will arouse Joe Scarborough?
The last thing this guy needs to do right now when he's getting pounded is, what has he lost, 150 billion dollars? Like, it is time to go back to your day job.
Elon went with the chainsaw and the drama, and I think ultimately it's reflected in these polling numbers. We're seeing this is just not a popular move.
He is not only like very sinister and has no idea what he's doing, and people are like, oh no, he absolutely knows because he's the richest man in the world. Like, yes, he knows how to hire smart people, but don't conflate that and believe that he is the genius, because he ain't.
You know, Harold, it seems like the Dems don't achieve anything, and when somebody tries to do something like Elon did, they root against him.
Yeah, no. we're rooting against what he actually did, not what he says he's doing. Because Clinton, Obama, everybody's talking about making government more efficient, and everybody cuts against waste and fraud. Most of the stuff that Doge is taking credit for is literally stuff that occurred because of changes in the law under Obama that is an ongoing bulwark against this kind of waste and fraud that exists. We're not worried about that he wants to come in and make things more efficient. We're worried, our complaint is that it's a cover for theft, that he and his dipshits are rolling in there, taking Americans' private information, usurping it, and using it for their own purposes, to train his AI, to sell to foreign governments, to have as marketing details they could sell to other companies, to use it as blackmail against politicians when they have access to that stuff. Because the first place, when you go into places like the Treasury and the IRS, if you're going to gather leveraged information that the IRS might have against people, it would be politicians, people in power.
You can't be for that, can you? When you see that, like, we're dealing with a problem, which is economic collapse.
No, we're not. No. We're dealing with economic collapse because Trump started this dipshit trade war for no fucking reason. The U.S. government's debt to GDP ratio is not an imminent us on the edge of imminent collapse. We're not. That is not happening. It may be problematic, and they were like, "This is huge." This is like when we've been at war. Well, COVID was worse than a war. It literally shut down the world economy more than World War II did. It had more of an economic impact on the United States than World War II and Vietnam put together. So the idea that we would run up a fucking bill in the wake of that and then slowly pare it down over time makes a whole lot of fucking sense. In the same way that if a hurricane ripped your fucking roof off, you wouldn't just leave the roof off and go, we can't afford that right now, because the rest of the house becomes useless if you don't pay for a new roof.
The reason for Doge. Why would you root against that? Why would you, Harold, root against that?
So it's good to be back with you, and you haven't lost your fastball. I can see the. I'm not rooting. I never root against any great American company or great American business guy. I can disagree with him, and I think those in Congress, Democrat and Republican alike, have disagreed with Mr. Musk. But let's get to the positive. Doge has been a great effort on the part of the White House to try to help highlight redundancies and highlight inefficiencies in our government.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, they're pushing back against redundancies. That was their biggest concern. It's not that we're doing this at all. It's that we're doing it twice. Asshole, they don't want to do it at all. They're not worried about us overdoing charity. They want to eliminate it entirely. They don't worry that we're helping refugees twice. They don't want to help refugees.
Highlight ways in which we can think about reimagining agencies to do better things with less money. I've always thought that the real opportunity for anyone that want to look at government efficiencies was to say we scale what's working, be it tax cuts or spending, we reform what can be fixed, and we scrap what's not working. And they have not done all of that. It appears, at least according to our notes, that according to what Mr. Musk has been able to do with Doge, they've estimated they're going to save some $150 to $160 billion. We'll see if that's the case, which works out to be about $1,000 per taxpayer. We'll take the savings. Now, I wouldn't blame it all on Dems. I mean, there are reports in newspapers today showing that Mr. Musk had disagreements with one of our old colleagues, Mr. Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, and even the Secretary of Treasury. He and Mr. Besson, apparently, according to press reports, and you can't always believe those things, but according to press reports, they had their differences. I hope the real...
Oh, did they have their differences? You guys heard, wait, chat room, did you hear about the differences that they had? Did you hear about the differences? Hold on. Besant and Musk got into a shouting match, according to Axios and others. Nobody disputes it, by the way. Even Karen Levitt admitted that it actually happened. Musk versus Besant. Dispute erupted into West Wing shouting match. You guys see this shit? These two started yelling at each other. Elon Musk and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent got into a heated shouting match in earshot of President Trump and other officials at the White House last week during a dispute about the IRS. That's because Musk wanted a guy in charge of the IRS that was one of the alleged whistleblowers who was completely full of shit and almost cocked up the case against Hunter Biden. He literally would have, if they'd have followed him the entire case about Hunter Biden's taxes not being paid would have been thrown out because that fuckhead wanted to use unreliable sources gotten from the internet as the primary way that they got leads to other information, which would have been thrown out in court by any baseline judge anywhere, like any defense attorney that fucking Hunter Biden had found in the phone book would have gotten it tossed out and everything that followed it by fruit of the poison tree. It would have been dumb. So the guy's a moron, and that's who Musk wanted in. Bessent wanted somebody who actually knew what they were doing. Okay, so it was two billionaire middle-aged men thinking it was WWE in the Hall of the West Wing. One witness said of the argument last Thursday, Bessent's net worth is actually $520 million in actual cash, by the way. Why it matters. The clash with both men in each other's face showed how much Musk's personality and style have rankled some senior administration officials since he began running roughshod through agencies with Doge. New York Times first reported on Friday that Bessent and Musk had a disagreement over who would lead the IRS, but the chest-to-chest clash between the two men a day earlier has not been reported previously. They were not physical in the Oval, but the president saw it and then carried it down the hall, and that's where they did it again. It was quite a scene, said a second person. It was loud. I mean, loud. Asked about the shouting match, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt referred to comments she made to the Times about how it's no secret President Trump has put together a team of people who are incredibly passionate about the issues impacting our country. So they're admitting it happened. They're not denying it at all. Disagreements are a normal part of any healthy process. And ultimately, everyone knows they serve at the pleasure of President Trump. Musk and Bessent's reps didn't say anything. Musk has had high-profile disputes with Marco Rubio, with Sean Duffy, with Peter Navarro. Everyone thinks Doge is great, but Elon's antics are just a bit much, said another administration official. Musk and Bessent had a choppy start during the presidential transition. Musk lobbied hard for Howard Lutnick to get the Treasury post, but Trump went with Bessent instead, picked Lutnick to head the Commerce Department, which was also a mistake. Again, this is Musk inserting Lutnick in, who's been a horrifyingly bad choice. Once Trump became president, Musk and Bessent clashed over Treasury hires. It wasn't a fighting about right or wrong. It was about control. The roots of the tension between Musk and Bessent is partly rooted in their personalities. Musk is a move fast, break stuff iconoclast, business leader, and social media celebrity. Bessent is a cerebral reserve financial guru who's much more comfortable explaining markets than being in the news or in dispute with Musk. What surprises a lot of people is Scott is so mild-mannered, but he has his limits and he can roar. Scott can't stand Musk. That goes pretty deep and pretty far back, but he's acting like a grown-up about it. This was other folks. So there you go. So that's what he's referring to.
This, Greg, is that Mr. Trump will now ask all of his agency heads to bring to him budgets that cut 2 to 4% of spending from what they spent last year,
which they could have done already. Why would you need Doge for that? For real. If 2 to 4% is what you're trying to cut out of every department, why do you need Doge? Are the people that he put in charge of everything so materially incapable of requesting that from their budgetary team and putting together a strategy for what that is? Doing like a bi-weekly meeting where you go through what the major costs are, what the like discretionary spending you have within the agency that you can get rid of to bring it down 2 to 4%. Why the fuck would they need Doge like busting into USAID or kicking down the doors at the fucking Treasury or the Department of Education or the Department of Peace, for fuck's sake?
Explain why, and then go before the Congress and do that. That's the process by which this works. So I congratulate him. I think he's leaving for a variety of reasons, not just because Jasmine Crockett said those things, and maybe even because he wants to get back to his company and get his company roaring again like it was.
Roaring? No, I think he's got to salvage what's left of it.
Over the many, many years before he joined government.
You know, Jesse, this is shocking to politicians because they never know when to leave.
Wait, is he drinking out of a poop emoji cup? Wait a second. He is. Who? Honestly, I don't understand why you would do that unless you lost a bet or you're one of those people who goes, oh my God, I got this shit emoji cup. It's a hoot.
You know, Jesse, this is
I think it's probably the latter, not the former.
shocking to politicians because they never know when to leave. You know, Musk understays. He doesn't.
He's not elected. He wasn't elected. He's an unelected bureaucrat.
Overstay. You know, you could just ask his baby mamas.
How many?
14.
14 and counting.
I don't know.
Probably more. So it's the contribution that he made is not how much he saved the taxpayers.
It kind of is, though. Or, I mean, he certainly hasn't contributed anywhere near the number. He was promising $1 trillion, probably $2 trillion. And it's like, it's prostate problem piddle comparatively.
Exposing how much Democrats stole from the taxpayers.
Yes, that's right. That's why all those people all those Democrats are being locked up for fraud. Jesus.
So easy. It's only 3 steps, Greg. You are a Democrat, you know a Democrat in D.C., and you get them to send you money. That's how
Is that how it works? Because I am a Democrat. I know a Democrat in D.C. It never occurred to me to get them to just send me money. What a nutty concept.
it works. And so
It's not how it works at all. It's not how it works. And if it only worked for Democrats, then it would have been shut down a long fucking time ago. If the idea is that this is just a way that like Democrats have set up the system and that like Republican presidents from Reagan through Bush 1 and 2 and Trump himself in his first term, they were just incapable of eliminating all this Democratic graft because it was so insidious and so secretive.
$1 million to clean up a beach. Now, if you get a DEI or DUI,
Like, I mean, it's easy to mix up when you've been talking about Pete Hegseth.
WI, they will make you clean up the beach for free as part of your community service. Or the beaches that I go to, the local
The beaches you are already drunk. You're already drunk when you're there. You just drink at the beach.
government does it already.
The clothing optional ones.
You've been there?
Yes.
I thought I saw something. I just needed to wear my glasses. And then they also have $1 million that goes to ocean justice. Now, if there was an auditor that came and asked you, what'd you do with the money? What would you say? You spent $1 million on ocean justice.
Here's what I would say. You know the areas where you say the county or the state pays for the beach cleanup? Okay, there's private beaches that pay for their own cleanup. Hotels, private residences, they hire people to come down and clean up the beach. There are public beaches that are high traffic areas where they pay for the cleanup of the beach because it's important to tourism. And then there's areas where there's the houses don't cost as much further down the beach, and the beach kind of looks like shit. And that's because stuff washes up there after, a chemical spill or something like that. And they focus on the rich, wealthy, or tourist areas because they need to save local business and they need to protect those areas. And they spend all the cleanup money there, but they don't spend it on the poor kid beach or the fishing areas where poor people go. That's what that's for. That would be the justice part. That's where there is an injustice in how money is being spent. And that's not even, again, we have a $7 trillion fucking budget for the government. $7 trillion. A $2 trillion deficit under Trump, which has gotten bigger under Trump than it was under Biden. So at one point, I don't want to hear shit about a single $1 million that was probably a matching fund or a loan guarantee based on other money raised. And seriously, did we need to allow a bunch of unelected incel douchebags access to the servers at the Treasury, the IRS, and Social Security so that you could save $1 million in beach cleanup on a beach you would never go to because there's too many fucking black people, Jesse?
Did Al Sharpton come out to the beach and yell something in a bullhorn to the whale? I don't know, but they...
Maybe look it up then. And shut the fuck up till you do know. Because it's not that hard to figure out. There are underprivileged communities that do have access to a beach, and the beach does not have the resources of the rich community or the tourist area to clean up the beach when there's a problem. When garbage washes the shore, when people dump shit there, when there's been a chemical or an oil spill that needs to be cleaned up, that's why. And it's a fucking pittance, because if you spent a little more, you could argue that that place might not just become a better beach for the locals, giving them something to do and a safe environment to go swimming and hang out with their family and friends, but also might be a small, budding, communal tourist area where people come and visit their relatives in those areas now because the beach is nice and the families grow and their connections grow and their businesses grow because of it.
Stole the money. And that's why Bondi has to get the prosecution referral and put some of these thieves in jail so they don't do it again. He knew it wasn't going to be popular when he did this job. It's like you come in and you're basically...
Hold on. Hey, fuckhead, listen. I and all my Democrat friends are for environmental justice and cleaning up beaches and saving the whales and all that hippie shit, right? We're all for it. What we're not for is people stealing money that's supposed to go to that and it not helping in those areas. So I want those people to go to jail for fraud more than you do. If somebody gets money to clean up a beach and they don't fucking do it, the person who wants the beach clean cares more about it than the person who doesn't give a fuck about anybody who goes to that beach or ever would. I and my viewers give a shit that money spent on the environment is spent on the environment. If you find anybody that was defrauding people pretending to be an environmentalist, fuck them. I'll help you take them to jail. But it isn't the issue or the expenditure or the concept of environmental justice that's the problem. And if you find that any of these people are guilty of defrauding people for environmental funds, lock them up. Knock yourself out. You'll get no complaints from the rest of us. The problem is you can't lock them up just because you don't like the concept of environmental justice or don't understand that impoverished areas versus tourist areas or rich areas get an inconsequential amount of environmental support compared to those other areas. And there needs to be a backfill of it because it is, in a lot of cases, the areas we're talking about are polluted or dangerous to be on, not because of the activities of the people that live there, but because of shit that happens upstream or that happens, up the beach from them in another area like Venice.
Telling the whole government to strip naked and have all of these doctors look at every single imperfection.
Yeah.
And then interview your lawyer and your ex-wife and your assistant. It's like a full body cavity search, and then you put it all on X.
Yes.
No one wants that.
No one.
But it had to have happened, Greg.
It didn't happen. It didn't happen. Dude, we're not even getting to look at the SpaceX contracts. What do you even know about the Tesla batteries that Trump is trying to sell to the federal government as storage specifically for utility companies? Trying to be first through the door on those things? Do you know about it? Do you know the details of that? Are those multi-bid contracts? Are there superior products out there, or is he monopolizing the market in terms of the federal government for those things? Is that almost the entire reason why he did all this shit to start with, minus the stuff he could steal from the IRS and the Social Security database?
Thank God it did. And for this woman,
it didn't happen. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. The $150 billion of shit and stuff you don't like from USAID by shutting down the entire agency and then having to reopen it, you didn't even save the money. It's still being spent.
What do they say? God bless her heart.
Bless her heart.
Bless her heart. When
She's
she
saying that
says
about you too, by the way.
he ain't a genius,
Yeah.
I think that says more about her than it does about
Yeah, the
them.
only thing she's ever invented is a personality.
That's right. I've seen clips of her from a couple of years ago.
Is she tone switching because she's blacker now than she was before? Is that the idea?
Something changed.
Something changed. All right. So, Judge, piggybacking on what Jesse said, that he knew it wouldn't be popular, he did all this stuff knowing that it would.
Hold on. He thought it would be way more popular amongst maggots. let's be abundantly clear. A lot of these cuts are not popular in red states because, I guess this is, part and parcel to maggots waking up to the fact that they are the recipient of more federal funds than anybody else. And they're like, whoa, wait a second, we are? I thought this was just magic money that I deserved for being, an Arkansonian.
Negatively affect his wealth and his status and his public persona. That's a foreign concept to Democrats and the media. Why would you do that to yourself?
Well, you would only do it if you have a negative intent, corruption, something in the back of your head.
Well, yeah, that's it. Yeah, if you had access to, if you're a rich person, but most of your money is tied up in the artificial worth of your country, your company, and it's leveraged against stock you use to buy Twitter, for example, which is a shithole that doesn't make any money. Maybe you see as a way out access to taxpayer dollars through a myriad of different sources. Yeah, corruption would be, you wouldn't give a shit about people's opinion about you if you had access to $500 billion, for example.
Why be a patriot? Why give up your own business and to go and, find out where the waste, fraud, and abuse is in the.
Also, why would you have to give up your own business to do that? For real. Do you think he just ignored his company while he went leafing through paperwork like he's been trying to find a missing person on a cold case from 1970?
In the federal government. Here's a shock. Musk said that he would go as a special government employee within 130 days. And he is. Okay?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. And he just said in the quote you were just playing that he's going to have to be there through the entirety of Trump's term.
Musk is doing what CEOs do. They set up a company, they get people in place, and then they end up leaving.
No, they don't. I think the only way they end up leaving as CEO is if someone votes them, if the board ejects them.
Leaders like Tampon Tim is saying he's going to take a break from destroying your retirement plan to try to save his own. As someone like Tampon Tim cheers that his own constituents are losing money because their pension plans are invested in Tesla.
I see. Yeah. No, they're not. No, they're not. And if they are, whoever's controlling the pension plan is a fucking lunatic. I'm just saying, if you're running a large retirement plan, maybe pay attention to the P&E on a business instead of buying meme stocks. Because why the fuck don't you just buy a shit ton of GameStop and AMC while you're at it?
So, and then you've got Crockett. She thinks she's smarter than Donald Trump. She thinks that the rich.
Well, I think she's afraid she is. I think we're all concerned legitimately. We're like, yeah, even when we're not being assholes about it, I'm pretty sure we're all smarter than he is.
Man in the world just hired the right people. Oh, if that were only the equation. But what I love about this administration is that they just.
You love it so much you have to read it off a piece of paper. You get a talking point from the White House that they're like, we desperately need to push this. Push the Pete Hegseth story isn't anything. If you have to talk about it, you got to dismiss it immediately. That Elon Musk is doing this because he's a patriot and taking a massive hit that he didn't have to take, but he loves the country so much. And of course, that country is South Africa, but whatever. But say it in a way that we know it comes from the heart by reading it verbatim off of a fucking piece of paper, because you'll forget to say it if you don't.
Did what people said they couldn't do. Mm-hmm. They said they can't get rid of the swamp and drain the swamp. They said they can't get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. They said they can't root out corruption or close the border or make food healthier. Well, they dared and they did it.
No, they did not. First of all, the border isn't closed. It is he's enacted an emergency like COVID and sent a bunch of soldiers down there because his wall fucking sucks. And if the soldiers weren't there, the wall would still be inadequate to stop people from coming through because it's a piece of shit. And the only way it works is if you have soldiers down there all the time. And if you want those soldiers down there all the time, you're going to have to budget for it. And that means you're going to have to pass a bill or a budget that pays for those people down there. He can do neither right now. His own Congress will not pass those things. They don't even know how they're going to end up doing it. They're probably going to have to do it piecemeal between now and June because they know they're not going to be able to pass this big, beautiful bill without major cuts in it that will upset either house. Trump doesn't care what's in it as long as he can sign it and wag it around. But he's got to pass something. He's got to sign something that puts funding to the border before you can officially close it. He just declared an emergency down there. Like it's like saying we closed Germany by declaring war on them at some point. It is a temporary emergency act. They have not made America healthy again yet. And the only steps they have taken in that direction, actual steps, is banning food additives that Europe doesn't have and that Democrats have been talking about for a long fucking time. Democrats aren't mad at getting rid of red number 40, for fuck's sake. Republicans are. That is a regulation on an industry that costs them money and raises the price of what they're making and makes it less appealing to the consumer from an economic standpoint. They don't give a rat's ass about the health aspects of it. Certainly not more than Democrats do. And again, how are they doing it? Regulations. The things that Trump tries to get rid of. How many food regulations have to come down so they can add these about red 40 and yellow dye number 5?
So now the question is going to be, who's on deck next? Who's going to be the boogeyman? It's Trump, it's Musk, who's next? But
Hegseth for being a fuck up, Pam Bondi for not releasing the Epstein files, Lutnick for being full of shit along with Navarro and creating this unnecessary trade war. We're not short of anybody. He hired a bunch of dipshits.
none of this is real. It's all fake.
None of it is real. It's all fake. So Tesla's stock is taking a dump because of the same imaginary reasons it went up in the first place. It's a fucking fantasy. Again, this was her dissuading, like moving away from Hegseth by going, none of this is real. It's all bullshit. It's just fake news. It is so bad they are just waving it away because they can't explain it.
Last word to you. I find it's kind of disturbing watching how the Dems choose the bad guys and fight the good guys. It's weird to they're on the bleachers heckling people who are actually doing something. This isn't virtue signaling. This is actual action.
Like if Elon,
like the people who work at USAID, providing refugee aid to people directly, the people on the ground. FEMA, for example, who are doing the work on the ground. Trump denies FEMA aid to North Carolina because fuck them. He's in office now. He doesn't need these assholes anymore. So screw him. But Democrats are for FEMA operating positively and actually doing its job. So because we don't buy Musk's line of bullshit that he's just there to help, instead of hashtag Doge is a fucking heist, because we don't buy it, we're not patriots, right?
volunteered to spend 130 days in an El Salvador prison as an MS-13 gang member.
Yeah.
They might come and visit him.
Exactly.
And be nice to him. I also wonder, I was thinking about Tim Walz, it was almost as if Elon Musk gave Tim Walz a reason to live.
Yeah.
And he was out and he did all those interviews, and look at the damage that he did. Not, I think, to his party, but also to a company, an American company, recommending the vandalism, dismissing it. Now he has one of the
recommending the vandalism. I recommend vandalism, if you will.
people that works in his government, an alleged suspect who is going to be able to just basically walk away without having to pay for that. And I think another thing we haven't mentioned is that I'm still skeptical, and I'll look at the numbers on the money that's saved. I think on some of the things, like you remember.
Jeez, this footage is so horrifying. I don't know. It's too terrifying to even look at. What is he writing on the dude's car with a wax crayon?
Like for example, the Trans Opera in Colombia. Like obviously nobody needs to be paying for that, but the fact that the government employees were saddled with these old computers and terrible software. That's the kind of efficiency that could pay off in the long run if they were able to fix that.
first of all, let's unpack that, dipshit. Run this by me again. So old computers, old software, that would be great if they were able to fix that.
And the government employees were saddled with these old computers and terrible software. That's the kind of efficiency that could pay off in the long run if they were able to fix that.
Right. Okay. So first of all, she's saying this $38,000 that was allegedly spent through an NGO on a trans opera when their whole thing was just like, you know, arts and support for LGBT issues in an area where we have staff, we have embassy staff, many of whom are either gay or very possibly trans, and they've got to be walking around in those areas. So helping the society be more accepting when our people are there, our companies are doing business with them, and we have women running our companies and that kind of stuff is useful. Just useful to have that happen. But in the meantime, she's like, that we're spending that $38,000 and not solving a multi-million, if not billion-dollar issue with computers and software in particular agencies. Now, the reason a lot of the software isn't updated is because the process of doing it, which they've tried a couple of times, the cost of doing it versus the security of the current system versus the new system, because it's so old and because it's so, like, it's basically built on an intranet system, it's harder to hack because it doesn't have the same entry points that a lot of like newer software does. And you don't have to do constant security updates on it because it just works. And it's got very clear doors and entry points digitally that it deals with. So there's no reason to upgrade. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, is the issue. There's some aspects of it that are sort of like pre-Y2K in terms of people's ages and shit like that. And we've seen those things as far as how they update. But it's not less secure because of that. It's actually more secure because of that. And you could put case agents on all the people who are over a certain age to make sure that they're not getting checks like manually and solve that within a matter of months and not have to do the upgraded system at all. Will the upgraded system be necessary at some point? Sure. But Elon Musk wants it done quickly and at a fever pace so that it will be his software, so that it will be his contract. Because once it's in there, it stays in there. That's what this is about.
A trans opera. Is it over when the fat man sings?
Terrible.
Up next, Democrat groupies gather for their next deported star.
Click here to subscribe.
Okay, they cut out of that. Never pass up an opportunity to be a bigot, eh, Greg? So, needless to say, this is so gross.